I've been kind of doing the cybersecurity thing since I was like 7 years old. I've been ripping apart computers. My one of my brothers, Kamal, he gave me a Windows computer maybe when I was like 9 or 10. I ripped it apart, put it back together, learned everything I could.
Welcome to Career Plug. Hi, and welcome back to Career Plug. Happy New Year. It's 2024. This will be my first interview of 2024. Really excited about it. If you have not had a chance, please like and subscribe to Career Plug. I am growing my network. I'm bringing all of my personal resources, folks I know in various industries to my audience in the hope that Career Plug can provide insight, advice, just valuable information on various careers. There's always an issue of people, actually understanding what individuals do in their careers. So I want to help bridge that gap. Again, if this provides valuable information to you, share it with a few people, but also like and subscribe. My last interview, just briefly, my last interview of 2023 was with Nikki Buchanan of SXM Radio Pandora. She is in media sales. It was a great interview. Please go and remember to check that out. Now, again, excited to interview my next guest, Mustafa Lutfi of Lutfi Enterprises. This, I'm going to call him young man because he's a millennial. He is a Gen Y. I'm a Gen Xer, proud Gen Xer.
Mhm.
And this guy shakes and moves. He is in the DC area. He is in cybersecurity, and I've had requests for insight into cybersecurity jobs, framing around it. So I thought of him instantly and want to introduce him properly. So before he comes on screen, I'm going to give you a proper introduction. And this is right off of his LinkedIn page. He is an information and cybersecurity professional specializing in DevSecOps. I'm sure that means development, security, operations, methodologies, and risk management framework. He has extensive experience in performing security risk assessments, flaw remediation, and ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability of systems and data throughout the software development cycle. While that is a mouthful, I'm going to bring it now to him. He will break all that down for you and me. This is exciting because I'm going to learn a lot as well. So I just want to welcome Mustafa Lutfi.
Thank you so much, Gene. I'm really excited to be here and be able to give a little bit of knowledge and disseminate any type of information that I've gained in my career, to your audience in the next generation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
And welcome. I am excited to have you on once again because I think that there's a void, specifically in our community, but generally, I think there's a
Hmm.
void of knowledge in the cybersecurity area. Let's skip to the fun stuff right up front. What are you plugged into these days? I know you have been married now,
Hmm.
about 3.5 years. You
Hmm.
also have twins. So give me a little bit of what you're plugged into these days.
Yeah, like you've already mentioned, man, I've got twin boys. They're 13 months old, and they're my world right now. It's a lot, but I'm having a great time, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. I've got two wonderful kids, and they're great, and a wonderful wife, and I'm also plugged into I'm very much interested in cars. I'm a big car semi-professional race car driver a little bit, so do that on the
Right.
side. And that's one of the things that this career has actually allowed me to do is freely be able to to exercise that hobby. Um, so that's one of the things. I'm a big BMW M car guy, so
Oh,
that's
get out of
yeah
here. Now,
yeah
now you warm my
that's
heart.
no
I have a
really.
1999 M3.
Oh really? So you got that's the E36, right?
That is an E36.
Yeah. So
And I
I've
also have a
had E30.
650.
Oh, a 650, nice.
I do.
Currently driving an M8.
Oh,
That's my baby. Yeah.
my dream car.
So it's
What's up with the
beautiful.
millennials stomping all over the Gen Xers? You got that. That's one of my dream cars. I love that M8.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful car. I ended up getting an excellent deal on it during COVID, so it was something I couldn't really pass up. So yeah, I love it. But I've been a M3 M4 guy pretty much my whole life because just from a racing that perspective, the M8 is fun on the track. It's a little bit heavy, but I feel like if I wanted to, I could modify it to actually be a track monster. But M3, M4, E92, E36, all the way up. So that's my bread and butter. So.
I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
See, I knew I liked you for some reason. The guy knows his cars and he knows class along with
Hmm.
style and comfort. He's a cybersecurity guy, but doesn't drive a Tesla. Can you believe
Right. No, no, I'm not. I'm not your typical, cybersecurity guy. I think you asked me earlier if I was Apple, and I'm not Apple based. I agree. I'm pretty much Google ecosystem, but a lot of my own stuff. I do have my own network. I have my own firewall, and I basically track every packet that leaves this house. So, and by
Wow,
packet, I mean any type of information that leaves this house. I track. So, um,
that
not
is great.
paranoid,
So,
but just fun stuff.
or semi-paranoid.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, give me a little bit of your background. You are from where you're from originally. I know
Mhm,
that you went to the University of Alabama. So, yeah, just give me a
mhm.
little bit of background of where you're from, born and raised.
Sure. Yeah, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, went to school, University of Alabama, Roll Tide. Um, I was there. I graduated in '07. My parents, my mom is from Detroit, father's from Sudan. So he came over looking for his Angela Davis, found my mom, and that was that. And so I've got the best of both worlds. I'm African American and African, so I guess technically African American, right? But
Correct.
so I've from an Arab standpoint, I've got that. You know, spoke a little Arabic in my younger years, and I think that's helped me a lot also because. Just being able to critically think and translate stuff is a big deal in the cybersecurity realm. So,
Great.
graduated from Alabama, moved up here to DC. That's actually a funny story. It was on accident. They actually misspelled my last name on an offer letter to move to Atlanta. Didn't get it. Then they gave my position away, and it's like, hey, we want you in DC. So I came up here, worked for a big four consulting firm, and that's kind of where I learned the business realm of the cybersecurity realm. But I've been kind of doing the cybersecurity thing since I was like 7 years old. Been ripping apart computers. My one of my brothers, Kamal, he gave me a Windows computer maybe when I was like 9 or 10. I ripped it apart, put it back together, learned everything I could on it. I was always on America Online when it was first starting. I was playing a lot of MUDs, which are multi-user dungeons, which is basically Dungeons and Dragons type text-based games back in the day.
Yes.
And I attribute a lot of that to my success too, just being able to read fast and be able to move on my feet, and analyze data really quick. And of course, I moved into like the more graphical games like EverQuest and World of Warcraft. So I'm that nerd. I'm the guy that went to Star Wars conventions and Star Trek conventions dressed up, right? Um, but I'm also the guy that will travel to the other side of the world and take 40 of his best friends, right? So it's yeah. So
That's great. That's great.
mhm.
That's a great background. So you arrived in
Mhm.
DC, but it sounds like you went for a totally different industry, consulting. So I'm Is
Well,
that like
technically,
Deloitte or
PricewaterhouseCoopers. So
okay,
essentially, they brought me in to do ITGCs, which are Information Technology General Control. So basically, if a company needs a financial audit, they also need to make sure that their financial systems are secure, right? So that's what I went into, and just essentially making sure that you have your access controls in place, right? Means your passwords, your role-based access controls. Like only person that should be able to access this is the people that should be able to access it, right? Those type of
right.
things, and making sure that your just basic security controls are in place. And that's how I kind of started off as an auditor. And I think that helped me also from a consulting lens because I didn't actually know what an auditor is actually looking for when it comes to a system.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a mix of kind of like a traditional background, but the uh, light or view into cybersecurity. And so, what was, I would say, the ultimate transition for you into a role of like cybersecurity or information security?
I would say, I mean, after that, so this was back in like 2010, and I don't know if you remember, there was mass layoffs everywhere. There was,
Certainly.
housing collapse.
It's a bloodbath.
Right. So, I left PricewaterhouseCoopers after 2 years, and then I was looking for another position, and then I realized that my skills were actually in very much demand, and I think I want to say I doubled my salary 2 years and just by working at a consulting firm, and I think maybe 2 years after that, I think somebody accidentally sent me the wrong email, basically showing what they were paying for my services, and I kind of,
Wow.
converted that and said, it's like, okay, I'm making this much and you're paying these guys this much. How do I cut out the middleman? Right. So that's when I
That's
went on
right.
my endeavor to figure out how to cut out this middleman, because I mean, it's a difference in, hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes, so that was about my big epiphany is just learning the game because uh, growing up where I was like, my dad was an entrepreneur. He came over from Africa and started his own uh, car one car dealership and then car repair. So like, he's always worked for himself, and I think that's also been big in my life, just being able to work for myself. Uh, you
Correct.
know, um, but and also made me a car guy too on the side, right? So um, just being able to work for myself and uh, cut out that middleman. It opened up so many other doors and allowed me to travel and allowed for me to work from home. I've worked from home for 8 years. Pre-COVID, this is my thing, right? So I was already
Wow.
prepared. So once COVID hit, I was the one that was able to step in and all these other positions when everybody else didn't know how to work from home. Like I've already got my setup. I've got my 49-inch screen with three other screens around it, right? So I can manage multiple contracts. I can manage multiple meetings, everything, right? So uh, this was pretty easy transition for me. So, but that also allowed me to travel a lot. So I think I've been to 42 different countries now at this point,
Wow.
and then continuing on. I mean, we love to travel. We want our twins to travel. We want them to see the world. So I actually want to live abroad with them and immerse them in different, you know. Languages and technologies, because at the end of the day, what we do, we can really do it from anywhere in the world, right? So as long as we got an internet connection, like unless it's you're
You're
you're,
good to
you're
go.
working on like a top secret, government agency, like you 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to do whatever you want to do from anywhere.
So what I'm hearing is this combination of entrepreneurship
Mm-hmm.
in the space, but
Mm-hmm.
if you can sort of drill down to me specifically what you're doing. So are you consulting to, I don't know, government agencies? Are
Mm-hmm.
you yeah, just kind of generally drill down and talk about what you can discuss in this cybersecurity space, because you're essentially an entrepreneur who
Mm-hmm.
took his knowledge base, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of working for someone, you took your knowledge base and you're thinking I'm going to go apply this on my own, build my own company, which is
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of people want to do. The transition
Mm-hmm.
is not always easy. The capital investment
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is lacking, but you have intellectual capital to
Mm-hmm.
then start your own company. Once again, you have a college degree. I know that
Mm-hmm.
there are debates now about college versus not going. I hear that a lot with like Gen Z, and
Mm-hmm.
because of these platforms and spaces on YouTube, I hear a lot about, do I really need to go to college? Listen, this is just my opinion. You consider it old school or whatever, but the world is set
Mm-hmm.
up for college graduates. Are there exceptions that occur where people can get, the necessary training and certificates? Yes, of course that exists. But the world is set up for college graduates. You cannot dispute the factual data that with college degrees, those people earn more than high school degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't want to get on that. I have to like talk to my nieces and nephews, and I try to instill in them that yes, while there are various paths, I am a proponent of going to college, not only because you get sort of a general knowledge, but on a larger scale, you're able to meet people from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're building your early network from college. These are people you
Mm-hmm.
can call on for the rest of your life, and they will go in so many different directions. So we all heard, your network is your net worth. It really starts to apply as you go throughout your life and further in your career. You're able to call on folks. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um, college educated, now an entrepreneur. um, but drill down just a little bit of specifically, like, what does a day for you look like, or how did you first get your first contract?
Okay. No, definitely. I do want to talk about the whole college thing later on down the line. So let's definitely touch on that later.
Okay.
But no, so my first contract, like I said, it was I was just contracting under a contractor company. So they have you have a prime contractor, then sometimes you might subcontract that out to a smaller company, right? So you might have a big Lockheed Martin that wants to subcontract out to a smaller black owned. Uh, company, right? Because the government does have something called set asides, where you might be minority owned, you might be women owned, you might be veteran owned, and these set asides allow you to get first dibs on a lot of these contracts, right? So sometimes they don't want these big Lockheed contracts; they want that smaller company to come in as the prime, and then Lockheed would actually do most of the work, right? So that's how government contracting works. I was under a subcontractor. That contractor did not get that same contract again. They did not win it. The person that won, they came over. They tried to bring in their own people, but they brought in majority of their own people because it was a whole development shop. It was developers, operations, security. I was the only security guy, right? The client was like, "We still want Mustafa, right?" They said, "Oh, well, we'll go get Mustafa." They said they tried to hire me. I was like, well, let me use this as an opportunity to go on my own. So I said, I'll have my own company. You guys do corp to corp to me. And they was like, perfect. That means they don't have to pay benefits, right? They don't have to
That's
give
right.
me a 401k. They don't have to do this. So a lot of times these companies will say, hey, I would love for you to corp to corp. And that opens up a lot of doors when it comes to taxes, when it comes to filing, and and we can also talk about those things later. But when you're buying your cars, right? Um, so, that basically opened my eyes. I was like, oh, you're going to give me this how much per hour? Oh, that equals to this salary, which is literally I think at that point was like a 70% increase for me at the time. So I had to learn that game, and how do I start an LLC? How do I report my taxes, because you have to pay these taxes either quarterly or you pay them at the end, and then you have a big penalty, right? So and the IRS will come after you. That was one of my main clients. They do not play over there, right? So you do have to pay your taxes. But I think being able to take that first contract and say, hey, this is what I did with my own company. a lot of other companies were okay. Well, we need you to come and do this, right? And a lot of this, like you said, is your network. Most of the, a lot of my contracts that I got from my network. I think my one of my contracts, the last network, last contract I got was from a 5 year old's birthday party, right?
Wow.
I met the person there, and they were like, "Hey, I need somebody that does this." It's like I can do that in my sleep. Bam. I want to say my third contract came from a guy who sold me my E92 M3, right? Just that it's very network based when it comes to it. I mean, of course, you go on Indeed and those type of things, but I mean, I've been in this for about what 16, 17 years. So yeah, it's my network is actually helping me now as opposed to just being LinkedIn, adding a whole bunch of people, right? Um,
Correct.
so currently, what I'm doing is, security risk assessments is one portion. So, I go through uh, to a company or an agency, and I might have a system that say, what is your posture, right? So, I'll do an assessment to see where your system lies, and then do a gap analysis to determine like this is what you need to fix so you can get compliant, right? So you have a bunch of different frameworks, especially with the government. The biggest one being NIST, which is National Institutes of Science and Technology, and they make a lot of different guidelines that every system in the government has to adhere to. Um, but what's changing and where the money is going to be is that a lot of these companies are now getting hacked, right? And you have supply chain issues, even though the government is using one of the big you know intrusion detection systems. If they have down their supply chain one of their vendors that gets hacked, and then it goes all the way up and matriculates through different companies, then you have issues. So they want everybody that does business with them to be cyber compliant, right? So now, not only does the government need to adhere to these guidelines, 180,000 companies need to adhere to these guidelines.
Wow.
The federal government is the biggest employer in the world, right?
In the world.
And that means that anybody has to go through these things. So uh, that's the next realm, right? These assessments for all of these companies. And I think my expertise is one, being able to explain these things in layman's terms, and then two, connect the last generation, not the millennial, but with a Gen Y or Gen
Hmm.
X with Gen Y,
There we
right?
go.
So right? So I
That makes
you've
sense.
got these C-suite that were pushing papers when they first started, right? I was the bridge. I grew up with technology in my hand, but these people, the next generation grew up with a tablet from birth, right? So this is being able to bridge that gap, and I think that's what one of the biggest you know traits or any strengths that somebody needs to have in this world is being able to explain things, right? So to speak on that, also, my wife is an educator, right? So that's one of the things
Wow.
that I want to do. I want to impart my knowledge that I've given to the next generation, not only because I want to help, but also because we have a huge shortage in cybersecurity professionals to handle
Mm.
this huge workload that is literally just came down the pike. Everything was finalized on December 26th. It's called CMMC, which is a cyber maturity something, but whatever it is, it's basically a huge undertaking that everybody's going to have to adhere to soon. Um,
So 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 thank you for that. Thank
mm,
you for that because I just learned a lot. Once again, I
mm,
know I'm going to learn a lot, and I know if I'm learning a lot,
mm,
my audience will be learning. And that gem that you just dropped, we got to make sure we maybe sprinkle some diamonds or something in there because what you just talked about is a shift where
mm,
there will be an availability and need for uh, cybersecurity folks and
mm,
employees. Um, and once again, when you do anything related to uh, the government and or um, anything that the government is requiring as a certain standard,
mm,
um, that is going to open up a door to many opportunities.
mm,
So who do you, and we'll go back to the education piece.
Mm-hmm.
because I know you wanted to get back to that. But who do you think would do best in maybe generally a cybersecurity career?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that is that a college degree required at all? We hear a lot just about
Mm-hmm.
certificates now. So take this moment to dive into the certificate or college degree, and like
Mm-hmm.
who does best in these areas. I'm 22. Like, who
Mm-hmm.
does best in this?
Honestly, I think gamers, anybody that can critically think and think on their feet. I look at my nephews playing Fortnite, and how they're have a strategy and building forts and hiding behind stuff and finding different things to get into these games. And these games are so intricate now, right? So like just being able to think on your feet and have critical thinking skills goes a long way. And I think these kids have it. And I think me also growing up on video games helped me a lot too, right? From Mario Kart, I feel like it helped me become a pretty good driver, right? Gran Turismo, like it was kind of just ingrained into us. So I think anybody with a love for analytical thinking, critical thinking, and then like I said, that comes from video games. You might not even know you're doing it, but you probably are, right? And as a parent, you might see your kids doing these things. Like, oh man, like if you actually took these powers and used them for good, or not even for good, but for money, right, or for career,
Right.
you would be able to excel, right? Because cybersecurity is not for everybody, but I think having a gamer mindset does help a lot, right? Now for college, I have this conversation a lot, right? Um, right now you have a wealth of knowledge. These kids have generative AI, they have Google, they can literally learn anything that they need to, right? But I think you also touched on a wonderful point. You have a network, you have social settings. I will not give my 4 years at Alabama back for anything. I had an excellent time, right? So it was, I do think, you know, do you actually need a degree? No. I feel like, I think there's people, going straight out of high school, straight into the pros, working for Google and Apple straight from high school, and it can be done. Now how do you augment that college field? Do you have entrepreneurial networks or like housing? I think they've got like some small houses in Atlanta communities, so that might actually work. How do you give that college feel while somebody's actually working? And I think that's something
Right.
that can be done because, my nephews are 13 and 14. Um, outside of, like the social aspect, I don't think they need to go to school. Like, so I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I had three interns at a high school in Washington D.C. By the end of the summer, they had two of the three had passed their Security Plus exam. There was people that I've worked with that have been in cybersecurity realm for 10 years that can't pass this test, right? These kids did it in one sitting, and you don't necessarily have to have experience to get these certifications. So now this kid is 18 with a Security Plus, which is probably minimum 80, $90,000 job that you can probably knock out before you even leave high school. So that begs the question: do you need to go to college, right? And at the end of the day, I
Right.
mean, I don't know how much I've actually utilized from college. I mean, like I said, do I did I learn a lot in my chemistry class that I'm using today? No, not necessarily, but the social aspect is good, um, and just the analytical thinking is also I mean, pretty good, but it's not necessary. Um, but I think it's to each his own, but I don't think that it's a must.
I love that. I love varying opinions. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying is, look, I went to college because probably most of the people around me at the time
Mm-hmm.
went to college. My parents expected it.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of was again expected.
Mm-hmm.
In order to track well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, looking back, you're saying the world is continuing to shift so much. Yes, college enrollment is still at an all time high.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you don't want to go to college and you don't see that as an advantage, and you don't maybe you didn't get a full scholarship, or maybe your grant money and other things, you don't want to take on loans in so many words,
Hmm.
and um, that you want to consider another way. I totally get back and understand that.
Hmm.
All I'm saying is that from a world perspective, these
Hmm.
institutions, they've been around for hundreds of years, and they're going to be around for hundreds of years, right?
Hmm.
But if you can circumvent that, like you said, go from high school straight to the pros, great.
Hmm.
Who wouldn't want to be 18 making 80, $90,000? Again,
Right.
sort of a gem you just dropped. Like, there's a way to get a certificate, essentially come out of high
Hmm.
school making 80 to $90,000. Now, listen, I would probably beg the question, is that, normal or exceptions? Are those individuals, do they have an aptitude already, however it comes to them from gaming or other things that
Hmm.
allows that? Or, with college, with a science or engineering background, would that be helpful? To each his own. We
Hmm.
are here to give you the information and insight and perspectives of,
Hmm.
folks who have gone to college or not. So thank you for
Hmm.
that perspective. I think the audience can appreciate someone who says, "Yeah, I went to college, but look, I see folks right now, man, they're killing the game at
Hmm.
19, and
Hmm.
they're making great money, and they're not YouTubers, and they're not, all of these,
Hmm.
you know, you know, different areas where, people in their like early 20s think they need to be millionaires by like
Hmm.
22 or else they failed.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
you know, this is that's a great path. So, um, what would you say after 10 years of being in cybersecurity? What do you think is realistic for a salary? And then what do you think is the dream version of that? Like, what's the high end of that? You're 10 years into, cybersecurity career.
Yeah.
Like, what are you making? That's what people want to know. Not you
So at
specifically.
10 years, so when I was 10 years in, I was what, maybe third. So put it like this, I was making six figures by 25, right?
Whew.
Um, but it's really just dependent. I mean, cyber is so huge. I mean, you've got so many different aspects of it. You can be a consultant, you can be a SOC analyst, which basically, you review like, telemetry of what's going on when you see those big screens up and you see everybody trying to log in and password attempts and all that stuff. Then you've also got hackers, right? So you've got penetration testers, which I kind of do on the side, which is really the fun stuff where you're actually like testing these systems and you're literally hacking into these systems. So it's just really depending on what you want to do. But I mean, you can easily be making $150,000, right? And I think my next door neighbor, he was 30 years old. He was making 170 with two certifications in cybersecurity, right? So, uh, but this is also in the DC area, so I won't say that's pretty much everywhere, but from a average perspective, I mean, definitely well over six figures.
I love it. I love it.
And like I said,
And
you can do that. You can do that within your first 2 3 years if you want, like just depending on how things go.
and so the higher end of that, then it
Hmm.
sounds like, you can be upwards of 250 to 500K a year.
Hmm.
Let's say, for example, if you maybe run your own business and you have,
Hmm.
you know, $40,000 a month coming in from
Hmm.
three different contracts, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
that's not unheard of.
Right. Or you could just do it in one foul swoop and get a CISO role, right, for one of these big companies, which is a chief information security officer, right? So these are usually their own C-suite. They've usually been under the CIO, but a lot of companies are making them their own level of C, right? So then you just report straight to the CEO. And these companies, they're paying, shelling at 350 plus, 500,000 for these roles. If you want to go to a big company like Google, Google, Amazon, they're doing 350 plus just, for security professionals. So there's a lot of mobility in those roles. But like you said, I can also contract like me and get a whole bunch of different contracts and work when you want to work, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can do things.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about in doing things. Look, the travel and the lifestyle is important to everyone, but I
Mm-hmm.
love that like Gen Z, not only do they want to like give back, but just
Mm-hmm.
they would just want to have more balance. Us
Mm-hmm.
as Gen Xers, and then for you guys a little bit in Gen Y,
Mm-hmm.
it is the you see the shift of importance to having balance in your life. And
Mm-hmm.
look, who doesn't want to have fun and travel? So give me a little bit of insight. I mean, you're driving an M8 BMW. Listen, for those of you who want to look that up, I'm going to tell you that's not a cheap BMW.
Nope.
That's at the higher end. But talk to me a little bit about just man. Look, you're traveling, you're driving nice, you got a
Mm-hmm.
family. Like life is good. Tell me a little bit more about just like how you like to move around, where.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, man, my job and my life is about solving problems, right? So I also have a couple of side hustles. One of them's called Sophista Ratchet Entertainment, right? So I discovered that there was a gap in the DC young professional black scene to to have a brunch, right? Like a party brunch. So I think it was
Okay.
2011 we started this thing called the Turn Up Brunch. It was the first party brunch. I think there's probably party brunches all over the country now.
Yep.
I would like to say that we were probably the originators of it, right? So we like to, it's a group of young black professionals that just like to have fun, right, with no inhibition. So, we've also kind of pivoted to traveling. So, we've gone to Thailand, we've gone to Croatia multiple times on yacht week, we've gone to Greece, we've gone to South Africa, we've done, huge trips to a lot of different places around the world, Ibiza, Spain. We've got cruises coming up, so that's actually one of the things that I enjoy doing is because uh, I just love to travel and I want I think traveling is eye opening to pretty much just anybody, not just for us. I want to expose people to the rest of the world, but I also want to expose the rest of the world to us, right? Because we have a
That's
lot to
right.
give. Um, and it's just interesting just meeting people around the world. And like hip hop is one of the biggest genres anywhere in the world, and that's really the only view they get of us or what they see on TV. So being able to show others and be shown things is just one of my one of the things that I love. But just being able to say, hey, I'm going to be leave for a week or two, or schedule my contracts around my vacation has just been
Mhm.
very helpful in doing going to the 42 countries I've been to. And mind you, most of these countries I've been to multiple times, right? And if I do
Jeez.
want to leave and go work somewhere for 6 months, I'm able to do that. Not necessarily under a government contract because you do have to check, make sure that you're not in a foreign adversary's country accessing your government laptop. But there, like I said, there's 180,000 companies that now have to do business with the government doing the same thing, right? Um, but no, so just being able to go out have fun, like, and during the recession for the past the 12 to 15 years, like I didn't feel that as a cybersecurity professional. We didn't we it's a recession proof job. Uh, while everybody else was out struggling, I was in Vegas partying, right? I hate to say it, but it's like it was cheaper for me then. Like I don't want to go now; it's like twice the price. But and there is, it's a recession-proof job, and I've been able to continue, investing and from the beginning, and I'm a pretty nice life right now.
I love it, man. I love it. And sitting here proud just listening to it because it's nice to be able to walk into something secure where you feel like, you have some competency, but then
Mhm.
there is a lot of room in front of you for growth and
Hmm.
development, and and then to be able to just supplement that with,
Hmm.
side hustles, if you will,
Hmm.
um, but also explore the world. It is so important to get out to see the world.
Hmm.
I have not been close to 42 countries, but I've been to Croatia and Italy, and
Hmm.
driven on the Amalfi Coast. And when you start to
Hmm.
get exposure to these things, you understand um, not only how big the world is, but how we're all sort of interconnected, right?
Hmm.
And then, like you said, for us specifically as African Americans, it's just great to expose the world to, who we are outside of music and things that transcended for so many years. How many people can say they met a cybersecurity professional in China?
Yeah, who can say their wife taught a Target exec in India how to twerk in the Maldives, right? Like that's not something that anybody can really say, right? So like we've got friends that live in India that have uh, probably palatial houses that just keep inviting us, and it's just stuff that like this that you wouldn't get anywhere else, right? Just I've got stories for days. I was actually talking to one of my friends earlier. I was like, I think we've forgotten more stuff than most people have done in their life, right? And it's just and it's just he's in the same realm as me. He's not necessarily cyber, but he's IT, and he's done very well for himself too. So it also surrounding yourself with people that are like minded is a huge thing too. So I think being able to be in those rooms helps with that, right? And going to conferences. And that's one of the things I definitely would suggest to do is, when you're getting started, go to conferences, go to different events, go to meetups, go to happy hours, meet people, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds that one either want to help you or two need the help. And you might be that mentor. It's like it's for me, it's very interesting that people are like wanting me to be their mentor now. It's like me, like it's like, hey, I guess I'm at that point in my life, so it's like um so I think just going out and networking, I think that's one of the biggest things too.
My last question to wrap this interview up. It's been so informative. Certainly have given a lot of wisdom and insight. As a grown man, what do you advise? What's your grown man advice at this point in your life regarding not only your career, but maybe your purpose and the way you are living?
um I would always, it's funny, I would actually say stay resilient, man. I actually picked this shirt up off the ground today, put it on, but it actually is very fitting for the questions you asked. There's trials and tribulations through everything. Like, for instance, I told you I got laid off after my second year with PricewaterhouseCoopers, but in actuality, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. But if I had just given up and gone home to Alabama like I was considering doing, I would not be in the position I am today, right? So I would always say to stay resilient. Make sure that you actually utilize your resources, right? So you've got some of the best resources in the history of the world in your pocket. You've got Google, you've got ChatGPT, you've got all these generative AIs and bards and stuff. You can learn and do pretty much anything you need to. You just need to learn how to do it. And I feel like one of the biggest job opportunities coming down the rope is being able to augment anything with with generative AI. Cybersecurity with generative AI, or just learning prompt engineering. Period is a big thing. So continuous education is one of the biggest things, and I would tell myself, my 22-year-old self is like, make sure that you just keep learn everything that you can. And expose yourself to as many things as you can, whether it's good or bad, because whatever, doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So I think there's those are the two biggest things right there. Stay resilient and utilize your resources and continuous learning.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mustafa Lutfi of Lutfi Enterprises. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. This
Hmm.
was great.
Hmm.
We have some after interview questions for those that want to check out those clips. Please do so separately. But again, refer this to friends, family. He dropped some gems. Career plug. This is what we doing 2024.
Mhm.
Let's go.